I'm here today with Stig Nybo, President of Pension Sales and Distribution for Transamerica Retirement Services. Stig, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
We've all heard about the issues with retirement readiness in the United States and how many people are retiring every day that just don't have enough funds. What do you see as the issue with retirement readiness, and where are people?
In a word, we're in a very underfunded state in retirement in the United States, and it really distills down to a few really key issues. One is that we've not built a habit around saving for retirement, and there are simply a lot more stressors today than there were historically with respect to retirement. So, fundamentally, we find ourselves in a completely underfunded state, and we need to change outcomes for many Americans.
One of the issues we've heard about for years is that inertia is the biggest driving force and an obstacle in trying to get people into these retirement plans. Is there a way to move that needle, get the forces of inertia maybe to work for us instead of against us?
So we've done a lot of work around this topic of what would be the behavioral drivers that would change how people save in America, and one of them that we quote constantly is this idea of context, and by setting the right context for a plan, by creating an environment where it's easier to save than not. You can materially change how people save. So this idea of inertia is nothing more, nothing less than the wrong context being set for participants, context that makes them make choices that they won't make in order to be fully funded from a retirement standpoint. So we need to change that context and use inertia to our favor and drive people to save more. So you create an environment where it's easier to save than not. You get opted into a plan, let's say. You have messages that drive saving as a primary behavior. All of those things are contextual drivers which allow for inertia to work in your favor rather than against you. And it's an important topic.
When we move the needle and we change from an opt-in situation to an opt-out situation where people have to elect not to be in the retirement plan, what kind of results have we started to see?
Well, statistically, if you look at what percentage of the population actually opts out once they're placed into a plan, it's around 5%. So, the loose statistic that's used is that in plans that have an auto-enrollment feature, that about 90% plus of participants will be participating in the plan. I think the critical mistake that we've made as an industry so far is that we've been choosing a rate. And by the way, when I say industry, I mean both the provider side and the plan sponsor side, is that we have selected a rate that's simply too low. So right now, about 73% of the plans out there that have auto-enrollment auto-enroll at 3% or less. Well, 3% or less is not enough to get people to a funded retirement. So where auto-enrollment has dramatically improved the number of people that are participating in plans, it has not dramatically improved the rate at which they do participate, and both are critical elements in getting to a funded retirement. So the next step, the next evolution, if you will, to this kind of automated behavior is to really figure out what the right plan design is from an auto-enrollment standpoint. More often than not, now we talk about 6% as a base rate and 2% as auto-escalation rate, so that you move from 6 in your first year to 8 to 10 and beyond, and that would make for a much better result for participants.
A number of plan sponsors that I've spoken to have been afraid to put in auto escalation. They think people will drop out of the plan if there's another 2% that comes out of their pay. Have you seen that as a problem? How important do you think auto escalation is to build into these auto enrollment environments?
So I think auto escalation is absolutely critical, and when you look at the increase in dropout rates for plans that have both auto enrollment and auto escalation, it really does not materially change the results. So auto escalation is really nothing but a positive in terms of including it into an auto enroll plan. And of course, it's very difficult to start somebody at the number they actually have to be at. in order to have a fully funded retirement. So you can't really start them at 10. That would be a true shock to the system. Starting them lower than that, escalating them up is the right answer. And again, for those plans that do have auto enrollment, they should have auto escalation to go along with it.
Now, one of the things I've been really pleased about over the years is that we have participants that come up and say, I can't increase these people. They won't stay in the plan. And we say, just try it. And they come back a year later and they say, I can't believe it. We had nobody drop out of that plan. And we hear that time and time again. And if there is a dropout, it's very small. So it's nice to hear that you agree with that and that the data bears that out. Now, I'm going to ask you a global question. What can each one of us do to start changing the retirement savings behavior of people in our plans and across the country?
So, I mean, that's a great question. I think first and foremost, we each have to prioritize savings and prioritize getting people to change their savings rates. Right now, I would say the industry and really society as a whole is fragmented about what we prioritize. So we're thinking about things like fiduciary liability, which clearly that's an important topic, but it's not as important as trying to drive up the savings rate. If you drive up the savings rate, you cure a lot of ills, and it really is the number one driver of retirement readiness. So how do you drive up the savings rate? You start by making that your top priority. Whether you're a plan provider, whether you're a third-party administrator, whether you are a plan sponsor, if you prioritize driving up the savings rate, driving up the enrollment or the participation rate as your top two priorities, we will materially change outcomes. And certainly defaulting them into an age-appropriate, risk-appropriate fund goes along with that. But I would say the single answer to your question is simply prioritize savings in this country.
All right. I really appreciate the time you've taken with us today. Most of you did not see Stig's presentation that he opened our conference in Las Vegas in 2013 with, where he talked about the changes that came about when there was a huge pollution problem in the United States. And if we could change the pollution problems, we could change the way people save. We just need to start doing it. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for all you do.
My pleasure.